Okay, I didn't go back.
All right.
Is this your first one?
Yes, yes.
All right.
Thank you guys so much, John, and appreciate you letting me talk today, Zach. Thank you for that information. That's really good. And I'm probably the newest member of Rare Breed. A lot of you don't recognize me. I've only been here one time. I had never heard of this organization 60 days ago. John and I ate dinner in Florida. Our wives have been friends for years. And I knew John was a boxing coach, and he actually coached two of my daughters in exercise and stuff. And also, when you were talking about that obese guy in the gym a minute ago, was that me? I turned red sitting over there. He goes, the obese guy at the gym. I'm thinking, oh, shit, that's me. Don't embarrass me like that.
Yeah, it was a subtle shot. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. But anyway, John invited me here because he knew I've got this new coffee company with Max. He said, man, just come hand out some drinks, meet my people. You guys were so damn nice to me. AJ, all these people, Dylan, I have met Zizzo, I've met so many, Jason. I've met so many cool-ass, great guys in the last 5 weeks. Phil, it's changed I was thinking, this is amazing. And I fell in love with what you guys were doing because this changed my life 30 years ago. I'm 56. I'm the oldest guy in the room easily. But what John was teaching and what Zach was telling you, I have put to use, and I've got a story to tell you that shows you what actually happens when you take this stuff that you see and you do it to your own life. Now, unfortunately for me, a lot of what we're going to talk about is financial stuff, and I know money doesn't make you happy, and it's not all about money, but unfortunately for me, we talked about I had an obsession with money, which is not healthy, but at least I want to tell you my story, but I think it's going to go right along with what Zach and John has told you today, a couple of things. But this is what I made up. This is my keys to success, and I'm not going to go through this a long time. The good thing is I've only got 5 slides, and then I got a bunch of cool pictures, so this ought to be fun. Never quit, just like it sounds. I could go deeper into that, but always dream and think big. When I was 12 and 13, 14 years old, I knew exactly what I was going to do in my life. I knew I was going to be a business owner. I was telling John at lunch, he's like, really? I said, absolutely. Had an uncle that was a business owner. He had a Porsche, he had a big house, and my parents worked for the same company for a lot of years, and it just inspired me to want to be a business owner. By the time I was 15 or 16, when you start, figuring out girls and what money can do for you, man, I really got attached to that too. Not saying that's a great thing, but I knew I was going to be a business owner. And dream and think big sounds like the same thing. Dream big is visualizing you being where you want to be in the future. Thinking is methodically plotting the course to get from here to there. So it's 2 different things, but it's kind of one. And this is probably the most important thing that I could ever tell you guys. And aggressively is the main thing. Seek opportunities to serve others. That is the number one reason why I'm in front of the room today. And I'll show you exactly. I'm going to tell you my story. And when he tells about all this success I've had, and he knows I want to be a humble guy, the last thing you want to hear somebody say is sit up here and tell you what a great businessman I am. You'll never hear that from me. My success was a group effort of a lot of people. I had fantastic business partners, vendors, customers, and a lot of help along the way. I did make some good decisions, and I wasn't scared to try some new things, but I'm just not going to sit up here and tell you how great I am. I will take credit for one thing, 100% of all the things I did wrong, and we're going to talk about it. And no one gets up there to brag about all the stuff you did wrong, but you need to hear what I did wrong so you can see what I overcame and what actually got accomplished because of that. So I graduated from University of Alabama in 1993. I'm one of those roll tide guys you hate to hear. Everybody hates us now because we won so much. So my degree was in quantitative finance. I've been dating a girl for 2 or 3 years, and when she was graduating with a degree in entrepreneurship at the same time. And remember, I had told my parents and everything I was going to own my own business, and my parents hoped that would fizzle out. By the time I graduated from college, and my mother was like, hey, have you got your resume ready yet? Have you been interviewing for jobs? And I said, Mom, I'm opening my own business. And she was devastated, which was kind of odd. And I said, Mom, I told you this for years. And she goes, why don't you just get a real job like everybody else? Whew, that hurts when your mom tells you that. And I said, Mom, I think I can do this. We're going to open a little retail store in Tuscaloosa, right there by the University of Alabama. We're going to sell exercise apparel. My wife, fiance, was an aerobics instructor, and I worked out. You can't tell it now, but back then I looked like John. So so anything to do with exercise apparel, that's what we were going to do. I went out and got a 5-year SBA loan with my fiance, and we didn't have enough credit. Her dad co-signed for us. And that's the biggest first mistake. Don't ever get your father-in-law to co-sign anything for you. That's what I should have known better. This is the second mistake I made. I told people for 6 months how much money I was going to make. I knew I was going to be successful. I couldn't wait. I was just bragging, but I couldn't wait to open that business. Don't ever do that. I don't know if it jinxed it or what. I was out of business in 18 months. Punched to the gut. All my friends had already had a job and second and third year getting promotions, contributing to their 401k. I was flat ass broke. I had to move in with my parents at 25 years old with my wife. And I was living in the bedroom that I grew up in as a kid. You're talking about miserable and defeated and, what am I supposed to do? But at the same time, I'm thinking, I'm just going to open another business. And my mom and dad, I said, no, you got to get a real job. And I finally was like, shit, I broke down and I went to a bank, South Trust Bank in Birmingham, and I got a job right away because my degree in quantitative finance was easy to get there. John and I laughed about it. I was making $23,000 a year. This is 1995, but it wasn't a lot of money then either. But I'm just telling you, there's not much to live off of. Nothing to brag about. So I got that job, and I didn't like it the first day I was there because they said, if you work really hard, Chuck, at the end of 12 months, we're going to give you a 3% raise. For those of you who aren't as good as math, that's $690 raise. I'd have to work there 10 years to make $30,000. So I was thinking, this is not good. This is not the path that I wanted to be on. At the same time, I kept telling my wife that I wanted to start another business, and she was insistent, no, we don't need to. We don't need to start a business. We need to be like everybody else. And I was just so disappointed. So I started to hate that job. And after 10 or 12 months of that, I started realizing that I didn't have a lot of the choices in my life that I thought I would have. And I feel like and this is the one thing too about my wife. My wife finally said that too. Go get a real job like everyone else. When my wife told me that, she was indirectly telling me that she didn't believe in me anymore as a business owner. And that hurt as much as my parents telling me not to do it the first time. But for me, job stood for just over broke. Now, there's a lot of people in here that have a job, but please, I'm not picking on you, not pointing at you. A lot of you make millions of dollars working for other people. For me, job meant just over broke. So that bank controlled my life. I lost my ability to make decisions. And you say, well, how did you lose your ability to make decisions? When you work for someone, and I'm going to use me as an example, they told me what days of the week I had to work. They told me what time to be at work, what time I could go to lunch, what time I could get back from lunch, and what time I could leave every day. They told me when I could go on vacation. Even though I had the vacation days, I had to get permission. And they had more control of my life because they controlled my pay. They controlled the size of the house that I bought with my first wife. They controlled what kind of car I was able to drive. This was not my decisions anymore. The bank was making all these decisions for me. After almost 12 months of that, I gave up on my business, my marriage, and my dreams. And remember from the first thing I say, do not give up. I blew through that one pretty quick. I gave up on all this stuff. But this is the scariest thing. Don't ever do this. When I was a teenager, I told you I had all these dreams and expectations. Now I'm 25 years old. I'm making 23 grand. This is my income. This is my dreams. And they're so far apart. Instead of increasing my income to match those dreams, I did the worst thing anybody could ever do to themselves. I started lowering my dreams to match my income. So instead of wanting that big house on the hill, and I justified it in my mind saying, that big house, that'd be a lot of grass to cut, you got a lot of cleaning to do. Yeah, I don't need a big house like that. I justified it. That new sports car I swear I was going to buy, man, I know me, I'm bound to get a bunch of speeding tickets in that. I don't need that. Seriously, can you see what I did? I gave up on stuff, and there's some 20-year-olds in here now, but there's also some 50-year-olds in here. Do you remember? 60? I'm sorry. 50. I said 50. I'm hoping 50. We look alike. But don't you agree when you're 14, 15, 16, I thought I was going to be rich and famous. Of course, I sucked at athlete. I wouldn't do it playing sports, but you give up on that stuff so easy as you get lost in life. So unfortunately, got divorced. My life was out of control. And one thing that bank kept telling me, they said, Chuck, if you work here for 40 years, you can save a little bit of your income every year and you can retire from this bank in 40 years. Bullshit. I'd been sitting in that chair for 11 months and I couldn't imagine sitting there for another 39 years. So I started thinking, And someone showed me this, a guy named Wayne Nugent from Dallas, Texas, who ran a program like John and Zach are doing now. I got in touch with him and he gave me some of this information. I had never heard this in my life. Retirement, we talked about saving all this money. My parents told me this the whole time. If you just save this much money, you can have $1 million by the time you're 65. Well, guess what? I'd rather have $1 million at 25 instead of 65, right? Why wait 40 years, you know? I want that money now. And the truth is, retirement has absolutely nothing to do with age. It means you got enough money where you don't have to work anymore. That was like a slap in the face to me. I was like, shit, I've never heard that. Because I've heard this. Retirement, that's all I've heard. They don't teach you this in college. They teach you this. And this is another thing, let me get a sip of this, that really scared me when I saw this. How long am I going to live? If I'm going to work to 65 or 70 like a lot of retirees do now, shit, the life expectancy for males in America is 76. Sometimes it's 75, 76. So I'm going to work 90% of my adult life, 90% till I'm 65 or 70, so I can live like a king for the next 6 years in a wheelchair or whatever, you know. That doesn't make sense to me. I want to live now. I want to have fun. I want to have choices. I want to travel. I don't want that bank to tell me what I can and can't do. But no one had told me this before. They don't teach you this in college. And this got worse. The chance of survival to age 65 for a male, you know, you may not even be alive. There's only about an 80% chance that you live to 65. I'm glad you're laughing, because when I saw that, it scared the shit out of me. So I was like, damn, I may not even make it anyway. And this is really sad. 10% of the people in America today at 65 live below the poverty line. They've got less than $14,000 a year annual income. And if you're working at 65 making this much money or less, it's because you're broke. So add these two together, 10%, 20 to 25, 30 to 35% chance at 65 you're going to be dead or dead broke. That's it. So do you want to live that life, that 40-year plan, save 5% of your pay, roll the dice every year and hope you stay part of that 65 or 70%, and you make it to 65 without those? That's not for me. When I read this and heard this and saw this, even though my life was in shambles, this gave me hope, thinking, I'm just not going to do what I did yesterday. I'm not going to sit at home and sulk, and I'm not going to count hope as a strategy to go forward. So I said, what am I going to do? I said, I got to make more money. 23 grand sucks. No, I got to make more money. I said, I'll just go get a $100,000 job. Let's just do that. And this is because I'm old. This is in 1995 when I used to teach this. So this is a statistic from then. 2% of individuals in the U.S. made $100,000 or more in 1995. I checked this the other day. This is equivalent to about $350,000 or more in today's dollars. So think about 350, but less than 1/2% made over $500,000. And I thought to myself, that is crazy. We live in the richest country in the history of the world, yet only 2% of the people are enjoying themselves from a financial standpoint and getting to buy and travel and do the things they want to do without having to worry. Why is that? That was the craziest thing to me. You know why? It's because 98%ers follow 98%ers. And these guys talk about being the 2%, and that's what I wanted to do. But why do 98%ers follow 98%ers? There's 2 or 3 reasons. One of them is called socioeconomic stratification. Some people talk about socioeconomic classes. Typically, and this is a natural process in every country in the world, you typically hang out, date, marry, and live next to people that are in the same economic class as you, socioeconomic class as you. Doesn't mean there's no mobility to move up and down, but you're keeping up with the Joneses. So you feel like I'm doing okay. And by what society had told me I need to work for 40 years, I guess I'm right on track. I'm saving 3% of my pay. So stuff like that was eye-opening to me. I said, man, I want to be a 2%er. They're just willing to do things that 98% of us aren't willing to do. And if you want legal advice, you go see a lawyer, right? That's pretty easy. If you want medical advice, you go see a doctor. Thank you. If you want financial advice, please don't go out and ask your next door neighbor. Last time I looked, his house is the same size as mine. He doesn't know any more than I know. Too many people in America get financial advice from their buddy who's in the same boat that they are. If you want to get financial advice, find one of these big hitters in this room who've made millions and millions of dollars. You don't have to follow their path. Take something they tell you and latch on to it and say, if I can get a little bit from him and a little bit from him, and I can craft my own way to do this. Do not be a sheep. Do not be a 98%er. And if you want to be a 90%er, it's okay. I guess we need some of those too. But Don't. You control your destiny. I promise. I've seen it happen. I've been part of it. And this is one of the last things I learned 30 years ago. Obviously, he's from Dallas. Most of you are very familiar with Zig. Of course, he passed away, but this is the most important thing today that I can never tell you. That's why it was my third thing on the first page. If I can help enough other people get what they want, I'll always have what I want. I changed my life in 1996, and I dedicated myself to that sentence right there. I was the biggest Zig Ziglar fan you'd ever heard. I got cassette tapes, CDs. Now you can listen to it on a podcast. It's easy. I used to drive my car all over the place and just listen to Zig. I loved his voice, but his message was hitting home for me. So I got involved with a network marketing company as a chance to make a little side money. Within 2 months, I was making more at nighttime than I was making at my full-time job at that bank. I quit that bank right away. My mom cried again. The first 12 months of that company, I made $122,000. I was the 12th highest paid salesperson in that company. The company from Cedar Hill, Texas. It's called Family of Eagles. I got on their company video. I was a national public speaker for them. I flew all over the country, 4 days a week, all over the Southeast, every week for 2 years. That's what I did. That gave me more confidence in myself, but I had the opportunity to help so many people who had never helped themselves or never thought they could succeed at any kind of business like that. That was the most fulfilling part, and it was kind of strange to me. Even though that's what I set out to do, I was kind of shocked that it felt so good to help other people, and it was putting money in my pocket at the same time. So it was such a powerful thing. And I went from depressed, losing my wife, drinking myself to death half the time, to having a great life. That company ran into some legal troubles, and they slowed down the way they were operating, and I had 10 network marketing companies calling me, begging me to come work for their company. And I decided to move to Dallas, Texas with my best buddy at the time to open a sports nutrition store. And that was in March of 1999. That was my first business again, and I opened under the name Fitness Essentials, which is the same company name that had gone out of business 6 years later. I wasn't going to let the name of that company get me. So I opened a sports nutrition store in Plano in March of 99 and hit a home run. My life was going great. One day this damn super hot chick walked in, was buying something at the register, and I said, I got to get to know her. I've been married. You know her. I've been married to her for 25 years. I met her at the register in my store. I was like, praise the Lord. God is good. I love this business. And this one actually made money, so it was actually fun. So I was buying all my product from a distributor in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one in Biloxi, Mississippi, but there happened to be one here in Texas called Lone Star Distribution. I had never heard of them. But the guy that owned it was from Alabama, which was kind of strange. I had never heard of them. They started coming to see me because my store was blowing up. We were doing huge numbers for that type of store. And he said, his name is John Hoffman. He said, man, would you mind buying some stuff from me? I said, sure, you're local. And remember, I had that mindset. I'm trying to help everybody I can. Of course, I'll give him some of my business. He found out my education and my degrees in finance, and I worked at a bank. He said, would you mind helping with some accounting stuff? Some financial stuff. I'll pay you whatever. And I said, man, I'll help you for free. What are you talking about, man? We're buddies now. I'll help you for free. And he asked me that several times over the next couple of years, and I opened 3 more stores, and I was his very top #1 customer. In 2003 and 2004, I helped that guy's business grow. I moved all my business to him just because of the relationship. Late 2004, he called me one day. He says, I'll pay you whatever you want. Will you please leave your business and come be the CFO at my company? My one store in Plano was doing about $1.2 million a year, which is big for a sports nutrition store. He was doing $13 million. And I just saw it as a fantastic opportunity to go up the food chain a little bit. I own a retail store, now I can own the distributor. So I said, John, I'll work for you, but I gotta be able to write a check to buy part of that business, because I'm just not gonna be a good employee. I know me, I want to be a business owner. That changed my life. In the next 10 years, you touched on it, we sold that cane in 2015. We went from about $13 million in revenue to $124 million. And it's nothing because I did anything special. I promise John Hoffman and me and TJ, Chris knows TJ, we did everything we could to help everybody reach their goals and their dreams. Now, it's easy if it's your customer. If I'm selling him supplements and he sells a lot of them, shoot, it's going to make me more money the more he sells. We did it for our employees and vendors and everything. So this is where the story gets fun. I called a vendor one day in October in 2010. I said, Sully, is there anything I can do for you? And he said, well, I didn't expect to get a call like that from a customer, because he was selling me his product. He said, as a matter of fact, there is. He goes, I've had my whole life, I wanted to compete in the Indianapolis 500. And I think to myself, that's crazier than shit. What do you mean? I didn't tell him that. I covered it. I said, damn, I'm a big thinker and big dreamer, but I've never heard of that. I said, can you drive a car? And he said, no, not me. He said, I want to fill the car in the Indianapolis 500. So he told me, and I was like, what does it cost? I didn't know any of that stuff. So I decided to get working on trying to help him, and I want to get through this quick. So he was telling me why someone would want to invest in Indy 500. Why would they want to sponsor a car? So he gave me all this information, and I said, how can I help you, Sully? I mean, what am I going to do? He says, Chuck, you've got the best reputation in the sports nutrition industry. What you and Lone Star have built, you've got 120 brands that you represent all over the country. You can talk to some of these brands and they would want to get involved in IndyCar racing from just a marketing standpoint. So after going through all this stuff, I said, you know what, I know just the one. VPX, I called this guy. He's an absolute goober, by the way. Anyway, his name is Jack Owak. He lives in Florida. He's the same guy that started Bang Energy. So I called him and I said, hey, do you want to get involved in this? And I don't want to tell you the details, but he did. In October that year, we did all this stuff for the race. Thomas Schechter was our driver. This was the actual car. This was in May of the following year, 2011. Lone Star Distribution's on the back, red lines on the whole car, and Circle K. This is us for qualifying. This is an interview we did. We also made this trailer, and that's actually a mock-up car. It's a chassis that has no engine in it that we gave to VPX to go promo. And this is us before the race, during the race, and holy shit, we came in 8th place. You're talking about Jamaican bobsled team, guys that didn't, I'm serious. Our running budget for that race was $400,000. No one in the history of the world could have thought we could have pulled that shit off. And excuse my language, I'm just excited. Look who we beat. And you may not know anything about racing. These Andretti cars, Ganassi, Penske. We beat every Andretti and Penske car in that race, and they had a combined 90 years of experience. We had 9 months of experience and came in 8th place. How does that happen? And it gets better. I thought, man, my life can't be better. 1 month later, because of that, Chevrolet was getting into IndyCar because Honda was the only engine supplier for years. Chevrolet calls my buddy Sully and says, hey, we don't know who the hell you guys are, but the sport needs younger owners. And Sully was 28. They said, we want to sponsor you next year on a full season ride. He called me and said, we just hit the jackpot. We're going to do a full season. Chevrolet's going to help us, and our driver's going to be Tony Kanaan. He's my damn hero. Are you shitting me? I'm going to be involved with Tony Kanaan? So in 2012, we ran a full season. For me, all I had to do was raise money from this one vendor here, Inno Explode. We got to participate, did the whole thing. I was just happy to be around Tony Kanaan, and I was still trying to find out how can I monetize this more. This is a better picture of that. But in 2013, early that year, that Hurricane Sandy, everybody that's old enough, you remember that, knocked out a bunch of stuff in the Northeast. But Geico pulled out of the sponsorship. So now I had to go raise $3 million. It was my responsibility. And I did it in about 3 weeks with a company called Hydroxycut. That's actually a product. The company's Muscle Tech, you've probably heard of it before, up in Islay, up in Toronto, Canada. That's the way the car looked. This was the schedule for the year. We went to every single race, and because I raised the money and I owned the sponsorship rights to that car, I could put anything on that car I wanted to put on for every race. Went to 16 races. I put 16 of different customers of mine all around the country on the front wing of that car in their neighborhood. Wherever we were racing, I did that for my customers. And you're talking about building a customer relationship? Tony Kanaan's coming to town, and we're going to put your little nutrition store on the front wing of the car. You can imagine how that went. So I was having a blast. Things are going good. This was actually in St. Pete. I'm trying to go quick. Okay, but this was inside the garage at Indy. At Indy, you're there for an entire month. They practice for weeks and weeks and weeks before qualifying and then before the race. So you get a lot of time to spend with people, customers. This is me. We're picking numbers out of a hat to figure out who the order for qualifying. And it's real important. You want to get a low number. You want to get on that track when the temperature track is lowest, earliest in the day. So I actually pulled the number out for Kanaan. We were 14th. This is Chuck Hemingway's the president of one of our sponsors. This is us before the race. This is him right before the race. This is an iconic picture that my friend took. I thought it was beautiful. I thought that was neat. This is him. We won the damn race. Holy shit. That's something I never thought would happen. Are you kidding me? Man, that's Tony, and this is me crying like a damn baby. I swear to God. I was up in the suite. I was coming down the elevator going, go, go. I was just trying to get to the winner's circle. That's one of my business partners on the side. This was my national sales manager. We got down there and celebrated. That was probably the best day of my life other than my kids being born. But after that, I thought to myself, this happened because of a phone call. I called a guy just out of the goodness of my heart and said, AJ, how can I help you, man? What can I do to help you today? And he had the balls to go, I want to run the damn Indianapolis 500. We won the damn race. I swear it's crazy as shit. And this is what's so funny. And there's a lot of successful guys in here, and I know you've had exits. Isn't it funny? Once you get one under your belt, shit starts coming your way, right? In other words, once you make that first 100 grand, the second one's easier. Within 30 days of this race, Ford, of all people, Ford calls us. This is a ridiculous thing. This is us after the race. Sorry, this is me and my wife in front of the Borg Warner Trophy. That's that supermodel I told you about in my store. And she still looks like that, and I'm fatter than shit and all gray, so not fair. There's my championship ring. It's got my name etched to the inside of it. But I've got, all the memorabilia, all the fun. And they even make Hot Wheels cars of that car now. They make a 1/18th scale model of that, which I gave to you as a present. So Ford calls us. Global Rallycross racing started in America in the very following year, 2014. Red Bull was the main sponsor. They called us and said, you guys are damn nuts. You're on a roll. You won the Indy 500. How about you guys be a Ford sponsored team for the Global Rallycross Series? And we'll get you Nelson Piquet Jr. His dad is the Nelson Piquet Formula F1 champion. And I was like, dude, my life can't get any better. This is FitRx. This is the customer I put on the car for that race. Guess what? 10 months later, we got a bronze medal in the damn X Games. I couldn't believe it. We are in the X Games and gets a bronze medal. So, and you notice, again, all this was because I was nice enough to call some guy and try to help him reach his goals. Look what it did for me. Not just having fun, this exploded my business. There's a reason I sold that company in 2015. We were the fastest growing one, the most profitable one in the country, and a huge chunk of it had to do all this racket we made for 2 or 3 years in racing. And it got us tons of notoriety. This is kind of the end. So the next year at Indy 500, I start traveling like this. This is not my plane. But when you start having some success, very, very, very wealthy people start calling you. It's the weirdest thing ever. You want to talk to me? The guy that owns this plane is Eric Wilhelm. He lives in Atlanta. He called me through a friend and invited me to a poker game. He just wanted to pick my brain. He'd heard all this stuff about me, and he thought I was going to be this super wizard. I'm thinking, shit, I'm not real special, but I'm just kind of lucky. There's nothing special about me. But he wanted to pick my brain. How did you do it? How did you do this? We became really good friends, and what he fell in love with about me, and he's the same way, he is the most generous person ever, loves helping other people. You Google his name, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution did an article on him in 2022 when he sold his last company. He sold it for like $140 million, which is a shit ton of money. But after taxes, the first line of the article says he gave away $23 million to his 147 employees. That's cool as shit. That's why that guy's got this plane. That's why we get to travel like this where we go now and stuff like that. That's not braggadocious, I promise. I'm really talking about Eric. But you can see, you dedicate your life to helping other people, good things happen to you. And it's not a tick for tack thing. I met Chris Zizzo a couple of weeks ago, and I said, Chris, I want to help you with this. But I didn't tell him that thinking, now you owe me one. It's not a scoreboard thing. I promise you today, you start trying to aggressively help other people, you're going to be shocked what happens to you. Not just mentally feel good, doors are going to open, and I don't care if you're religious or you're not. I've got a friend that lives in India. They're not really religious. They have a thing called karma that you've heard of. So in their society, if you're just good to everybody, good things happen to you. I don't know what it is, but that shit works. Yeah. I'm just telling you. So my message today is please do the best you can, and finally, find people in your life that believe in you more than you believe in yourself. I had 2 or 3 people that believed in me way more than I believed in myself, especially when I wasn't feeling good about myself. But I'm telling you, every one of you in this room control your own destiny. Life is not a lottery ticket where you just sit there and hope your numbers get called out one day, but that's the way most people treat it. The 98%ers just wait around for something to happen, And they think, well, it'd be cool to win the lottery or cool to do that, but they're not doing anything in their life to get there. I'm just telling you, you control your own destiny. You can be up here talking here a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. These guys are gracious enough to let me talk, not because I'm trying to show you how cool I am. I'm telling you, every one of you in this room has the ability to experience what I did in a different realm, different way, because I am not special. I promise you, there's nothing about me that makes me succeed more than you. I just had to look at life a different way. And I was tired of going down the same path that everybody else was. And I was okay for the ridicule. And I was okay to be different. And matter of fact, I had to get a whole bunch of new friends. Most of the guys I grew up with didn't want to go down that road with me. They were safe with their little jobs, and they were making fun of me, snickering every time I started a business that didn't work. Look where I am now. I'm not trying to brag, but I retired at 49 years old and got all the money that I ever need. And last thing, Max Fairchild, the big muscular guy back there in the back, he's been throwing up a lot. He's got food poisoning, so he's not smiling much today, but he knows I've been retired for 5 years. He called me 6 months ago about this coffee, and since he was my employee and I love him, I said, yeah, I'll look at it. Max, you knew I couldn't have said no. It's in my ego, my DNA to go, yes, I want to help, but he was nice, and I know you don't want a full-time job, but would you please consider doing this? And I thought, I've been teaching this stuff for damn 30 years. I need to put my actions where my words are. Max, hell yes, I'm helping you with this, and I love it, and I'm going to make your dream, we're going to make your dreams come true, because Max, you're going to be the next most generous person I've ever met. You're already becoming that, but when we do this thing together, Max, you're going to be up here in the front of the room, and you're going to be passing down what you've learned and giving money to people that need it, and that's going to be the most fulfilling thing you've ever done in your life, I promise. So, and I just keep using Max because I know him better than everybody in here. So that's all I really have, but thank you for the time. I'm sorry I went over for just a few minutes.
No, not at all. Not at all. Awesome.